Ah, there you are. Hello and welcome to The Grid on Sports Tonight Live. This is your Speeders Digest, your one-stop shop for all things motorsport happening this week or last week or ever. As usual, I'm joined by Mr. Kevin Shepherd over there. How are you doing, Kevin?
Very good, thanks.
Nice to see you. I missed you last week.
Yeah, I missed you too. There were some really clever people in the studio. It was terrifying.
Back to normal now this week, but thanks very much to Martin Haven, a very clean-shaven Haven last week, who stepped in for me admirably. And this is Wednesday, the 25th of April, coming from a very rain-soaked and windswept London, so it's definitely going to be a wet lap, but you're welcome to sit on it nonetheless. Before we crack into chatting about all things motorsport, can I just say today is Felipe Massa's birthday. There he is, Felipe Massa, who was born in 1981, and
Really?
Jean-Eric Vergne's birthday also today, so it's quite a fertile day for Formula One drivers, who was born in 1990. So there's 11 years difference.
Horrible.
So 31 years old and 22. A radio message. Jean-Eric is younger than you, Massa. Do you understand? Yes, that's birthdays today. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. The Bahrain Grand Prix. It happened.
It did happen.
And sort of in terms of on the circuit, unaffected by political incident.
None at all, but there was a rather strange shot. On the last lap, as you look down the straight, they went behind the cars and there's smoke billowing along the back, and you think, all right, is it, Bernie? Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, it was very uncomfortable viewing, you know, wondering if anything was going to happen, but also wondering what was happening in the environs of the Bahrain circuit. And I think Bernie did make a couple of sort of unhealthy statements. I think one of his statements that, you know, what you guys in the press need is an earthquake somewhere to take your mind off this. It's pretty insensitive.
The thing with Bernie is he's all right during the season because it's like our dirty little secret. He's like your ridiculously senile uncle. I mean, if he was at a birthday party, it's all right while he's spouting drivel to your Auntie Marge, but the second the world press turn up, you'd hide him in a broom cupboard. It's embarrassing. The weirdest thing he did was he was talking about political unrest, and he said, I think the two parties in England don't get on very well. I think it's Labour and Conservative.
Yeah,
You really don't know?
he doesn't get it, does he?
How do you not know?
I think it's because the Formula One is in itself a tyranny, so he kind of
It's
sympathises
his
with
own little
dictators.
dictatorship. Yeah.
But the race happened, and did you enjoy it? I mean, I listened and then watched the highlights on the BBC.
I watched the highlights, not for any particular political motive, just because I had my kids that day. So I thought, well, kids all about.
And your feelings about the race?
It seemed very exciting in the highlights. And more people apparently watched the highlights than on the BBC than have watched any of the other races.
Yeah, well, they're kind of rubbernecking, watching to see something if something bad happens, surely.
But yeah, the race was great, wasn't it? I mean, you've got all kinds of people at the top. I mean, Kimi, what happened there?
It's amazing. Like front page of Motorsport News today, Kimi, I can win races, and he was disappointed with second. That's what I love about Kimi Raikkonen.
Beautiful bit of Kimi. Kimi, you must be really pleased with second. Oh, it's okay, but I could have won.
Yeah.
So I had one opportunity to pass, but I did not take it.
He didn't have one, he had two opportunities apparently, because if Grosjean had moved aside at a key point in the race, he'd have won the race. But Boulier came on and said, look, at Lotus, we don't have team orders. Well,
not anymore.
Not anymore. A little bit of a hot potato for Boulier. So,
yeah, totally. Pomme de terre chaude. That's French for hot potato. Good. But yeah, Vettel, you know, with a crushing sort of inevitability, he wins the race and is top of the
fingers
standard,
back.
the fingers back.
Man.
Oh, put the finger away. But yeah, it was a shock. But you know, impressive that he did actually pull it off, because the car isn't quite quick enough still.
Classic of Vettel, wasn't it? Just disappear and then just... Mind you, I don't know if that's going to be the case for the whole season, because of the tyre degradation. If you're in front, you don't have those sort of like first 3-lap melees where you're just fighting with everyone and taking life out the tyres. So if you've got a clear track, your tyres are just going to last a little bit longer.
It was a victory that none of us could have predicted. In fact, let's have a look at what we did predict
This is so
in
depressing.
our league. And by the way, if you haven't joined our league yet, there's still time. There's a couple of people who are doing quite well, but basically you could join now. just get in touch with us. We'll send you a link to join our league, and you could probably still win it, because, to be honest, look, that's me, I think, and I got 25 points.
Wow.
22% prediction accuracy.
That's not bad, a quarter of the grid.
I had Schumacher on the podium. Stupid. And Hamilton to win, which I thought at the time was a safe bet.
Yeah, I think everyone thought Hamilton was going to win.
I personally think that McLaren messed up their pit stops just to hamper my chances.
Yeah, I'm
of
starting to think the same thing.
good points. But I did have Vettel on the podium, which I think I had him in second, which was close to first, which is where he came.
Yeah.
But overall, and I had Kimi in ninth. What's annoying about this predictor league is that if you get someone in the top 10, if they're in the top 3, it doesn't count for the rest of the top 10. So that was mine, which was all right, but not brilliant.
22%. Well done.
So what about yours, Kevin?
Do we
Let's
have
a
to
look.
do this?
Yes, we do. See, I think you did better than me.
No,
Oh, no.
6% accuracy.
Oh, I see, 6% accuracy.
Yeah.
But you got more points than me.
I don't know how that is possible. I don't think I did. I got 47 points. But yeah, I was there before the weekend. There was all this talk that Vettel was going to have to use the new setup.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to run with Webber's setup, but that didn't happen.
No.
He just went in, threw his steering wheel out of his pram, and they said, "Yeah, you can race what you like." And it turns out he won. Very annoying. And Button in third. Come on.
No chance.
But Raikkonen in fifth. That's not that bad.
I know you should
But
get points for
that's
Raikkonen in
what
fifth.
now all of a
Definitely.
sudden I
Definitely.
share your indignation.
But the thing that scuppered Schumacher, and he was very vocal about it afterwards, it was brilliant to see the grumpy German having a bit of a moan, was Pirelli. He had a
Yeah,
moan
yeah.
about Pirelli.
Because I was kind of fooled into thinking there was this whole new Schumacher. Even in China, he seemed so pleased. It was good racing. But no, not anymore.
No.
My tyres were rubbish.
Yeah. My tyres were more rubbish than everyone else's.
No, Michael. I
They
think
were
you're
all the
right.
same. It happened to Kimi in a race before.
Yeah, wake up and smell the coffee.
Okay. So
But Brundle also said they're all complaining about the tyres. I mean, I bought some new tyres for my car and I was offered Pirelli and I went, no.
oh no.
There's no way I want to be in the M1 and then suddenly start slipping backwards and get a puncture.
You'd
Not
have to do a
chance.
three-stop strategy to go up north.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Well, we are going to go to a break, after which we'll be talking more about Formula One, and we'll be talking touring cars and the World Rally Championship and NASCAR. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in approximately 3 minutes. Welcome back to The Grid on Sports Tonight Live. We're still talking about the Formula One Grand Prix in Bahrain. And before we get our correspondent Tancredi Palmieri up on the Skype wall, a few more sort of points are rising. One, Alonso. Alonso,
Whoa.
a couple of weird things in that. First of all, forced into the dirt by Rosberg.
Yeah, or not, as the case may be,
Okay.
depending on your view. I've got a view on that. He wasn't alongside him. You have to give someone space if they're alongside you.
Yeah.
But if they're behind you, you don't have to do that.
What if they're Alonso'd you? And he tweeted something which you pointed
He got
out.
really angry. Look, I think you're going to have fun at future races. You can defend position as you want and you can overtake outside the track. Enjoy.
Winky face with lots of double chins.
Yeah, just
But what's interesting, we had a nice, of course, we enjoy it when you get involved on our Facebook wall, and Desislava Jaleva pointed out that Rosberg went up in her estimation with the moves that he sort of did or didn't pull on Alonso and on Hamilton. But then there was a video she pointed us to on YouTube, which we went straight back down again. But what do you think about Rosberg? Do you think he was in the wrong, or do you think...
I don't think he was in the wrong at all. I think it
wasn't getting cocky because he's won a race now.
No, it's like, I'm the champion.
champion.
I figured out he's going to do a traditional Rosberg. He'll do something really good at the start of the season, just sink down the order.
Well, he's done the good thing.
He's done the good thing, so that's it. He's just going to... But that was great. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it was absolutely fine. What wasn't fine was Hamilton travelling via the airport to overtake him. I mean, what was he? I can get over here.
Yeah.
So I think that was actually a legal move rather than Rosberg.
Okay.
He could have hit the brake at any time. They do have two pedals, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think so.
And Alonso did that extraordinary move where it looked like he was heading for the pits and then pulled out.
Yeah, he was just going straight for the pit wall.
So call it the Catholic move. So what did he do? So what?
I think he was following Kobayashi,
Right.
and Kobayashi's traditionally a bit fighty.
All
so
over
he
the
thought-
place.
Yeah, so he thought, I'll get behind him.
Trying to get involved in Kobayashi's castle.
Maybe that's what he meant by that tweet when he said you can overtake where you like. He was just going to go down the pit lane.
Because pulling, that last-minute adjustment, that pit wall hasn't got much give in it at all. That would have ended very
really
badly.
terrifying. He was going to do a Perez.
Yeah.
It was very, very terrifying. I don't know why he did it.
Interesting. Okay. You, by the way, you made a nice little stalking trip, picking up some souvenirs from
I was on my
Lotus.
way to a gig in Chipping Norton, and
Nice.
I drove past the Renault factory. So I thought I'd stop at the Renault factory just to get a picture of me by the sign. So I took the picture very
let's have a
quickly, jumped out of the car, and took the picture. Look, there we are. Look at me. What you can't see from that is my car is still running. The keys are in the ignition.
And a running security guard.
But I jumped back in the car and a security guard came from the little booth that they've got there. I thought, oh, now I'm in trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble. And he just gave me all of these pictures.
Ah,
He gave me all these
some,
nice pictures.
some with retro appeal, Jerome and Petrov.
from last year.
But the Kimi one's nice and shiny.
Yeah. So I think if you want, I think their turn in form is obviously because I was stood outside. So if you want me to come and stand outside your garage, HRT, I'll happily do that. Take a picture, and you might not finish last.
He is a talisman of good luck, is our Kevin.
That's me.
Our other talisman, our man in Italy, is Tancredi Palmeri. Tancredi, ciao. Where are you today?
Buenas tardes. Actually, your man in Italy today is in Spain, but you know, it's not much changing because since I arrived here in Madrid some days ago, seems that the only question that people, that all my Spanish colleagues asked me was, what is happening with Ferrari this year? Why you gave a Fiat to Alonso instead of a Ferrari?
And your answer is?
And my answer was that probably it was just some MTV punked, you know, some program, and then and then in Montmeló in the next Grand Prix there should be some change.
Now, Tancredi, are you on some kind of witness protection scheme? Because we can't quite see you. Are you hiding from someone that's following you?
In a car park.
No, it's like, yeah, it's kind of car park. Yes, it's like I'm hiding actually from people asking me about Alonso.
So, tell us from your perspective. It was a great race. Do you think it was right that Vettel came out of it the winner? What was your take on the Bahrain Grand Prix?
Well, I must say that the tires are really not tiring us, if I can use this rhyme, because honestly, we were all expecting this time Vettel, sorry, I want to say Hamilton, instead this time Vettel, that we were all ready to think, okay, Red Bull probably will come out just on in Spain when we will come back to Europe, because you know all the aerodynamic changes that were compelled by the rules, especially touched all the magicians that Adrian Newey projected last year for Red Bull. Instead, the tires changed so much. We also heard this quarrel between Schumacher and Hamberry. I don't know if you already talked about that. Schumacher stepping out of the car and saying, no, this is not going to be the way. Pirelli is failing. It's not this the thing that we want. And actually then Hamberry said, wait a moment, this is exactly what Ecclestone asked us. Last year he came to us, he hugged Hamberry at the end of the last race, saying, it has been great, we want even better in that way. And actually, even the other, Rosberg, Vettel, they are Raikkonen, they are all so happy with these solutions. I think that two races ago we saw Schumacher, even if he was early out of the race, he was like saying, okay, if Rosberg is doing, for me it's fine. Well, that kind of harmony of Schumacher with the team, even if he's not succeeding, maybe can last one race.
Yeah.
No more than that.
It's very, very short-term harmony where Schumacher's concerned. So now we get to this situation where the Formula One that comes to Europe, and there'll be some testing. Tell us a little bit about what you think will happen in testing. Where is it? Everything you know about what they can do. Because suddenly, as Kevin pointed out before we went on air, a lot of the drivers are going, actually, I've cleared my diary. I can do testing. Like suddenly the drivers are going to turn up.
Yeah, actually, yes, it's something like, I don't know, talking about testing to drivers in this moment is like not talking about girls with them after the race. It's really impossible. Something out of their agenda. What?
Yes.
No girls after the race? What are you saying? The thing is that, well, maybe the only news is that even almost everyone will make testing before Montmeló. Probably the only one that will not make proper ones, it is actually exactly Ferrari. Not because this year they are slow and lazy, not because of that, but because Ferrari decided that they confide so much in their gallery, in all the things in Maranello, where they can actually make tries for that doing testing actually would stop for some days the development of what is already nicknamed the F2012B, the second version of the car. They decided it is actually a good point to stress that after the race, everyone was talking about, yes, we will come in Europe, in Montmeló, in Barcelona, with improvements of the car. Ferrari, Alonso and Domenicali, they spoke about, yes, we will start from zero. Now, that tells a lot. Means that if the others are going in their way, Ferrari stopped simply what was going in the first 4 races, and now we'll have just a completely, or almost completely, different project. Some things in aerodynamic you can change in the middle of the season or at this point of the season. But anyway, there is a lot about the back part and the under part of the car. I don't want to get too technical. And that's because they decided that in the testing, they will not try the new developments that they are doing in the car, because otherwise that would stop the development. Alonso said, our hope, if we look back to what is our history when we come to Barcelona, and if we look at the improvements that we are having, our hope it is to have at least 0.2 of improvement on every lap in the next car.
Wow.
That would be already something, because Alonso needs more speed and more stability.
Definitely. Now, so what you're saying is they're basically going to go to the factory and build like a Frankenstein's monster of a car to try and improve for Montmeló and the rest of the season.
He's alive!
Friend, good. But from your perspective and the perspective of Italians, how did you rate Massa's performance at the weekend? He needed to turn things around. What's the general vibe in Italy about Massa?
Well, today I will be nice to him, because if I'm not mistaken, today is his birthday.
Correct.
So it would be so unfair for me to be hard towards him. But I must say that I believe until Europe, and the situation with Massa is a bit freezed. I mean, anyway, there was in Bahrain, there was the reaction, not the proper one maybe, but at least a reaction that the management of Ferrari and the public opinion, let's say, didn't saw from Massa in the previous races. So at least he's alive. I mean, in that way. In some way, the talks about replacement, the talks about some Perez or whatever, it's freezed, because they hope to see that with improvements, even the reaction from Massa would be better. That is just turning a bit off the voices of the rumors around the Brazilian. But he got the next 2 races in Europe. Again, they are like, if not a test, he has to show that he's walking his way, because if, again, the best target that he could have in every Grand Prix would be the 10th place, so it would be just agony until the end of the season.
Okay, and finally, very briefly, Tancredi, this season looks like it's already shaping up to be a classic. Would you agree? Great racing, 4 different winners. What a season in prospect.
Well, I give you this statistic, maybe someone else published, but I don't find it, so it's exclusive, at least because I did with my small hands. And it was in last 29 years, 29th season, just once we had a season with 4 different starting winners. And just once in the history of Formula One happens that we had 5 different ones, and Hamilton actually could make that record. In the only time in these 29 years when we have 4 different was 2003, and at the end Ferrari then took the championship. So a bit of superstition from them. From my point of view, it's really fantastic. I mean, it's really fantastic. I love that the tires are in this way. Sometimes it's a bit predictable, some overtaking. For example, this week when Raikkonen was behind Alonso, we were expecting some fight, but then Alonso just left the way because he knew that there wasn't fight anyway, all in all. But if it goes in this way, and if please someone stop the brain of Adrian Newey, because I'm afraid in the next 3 weeks he would bring something out from his head. If someone stop also Newey from thinking, we can have a great season.
Tancredi, as ever, a pleasure. Grazie mille, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon in sunny Madrid.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy your rest of the afternoon in rainy London.
Ciao, ciao. So interesting. And one thing we haven't properly touched on, which we haven't really got time for, is the whole McLaren pit stop thing.
Oui.
What's going on there?
So
The car's made of
axle.
adamantium.
Real axle made of the hardest material known to man, and nuts made out of marshmallows. It's a risky strategy.
But that is going to go down in history. That moment with Hamilton shaking his head in the cockpit is a brilliant shot.
I love it when he gets angry.
Just moaning miserable. Now we're going to move away from circuits and Formula One to gravel and World Rally Championship cars. And joining us on the Skype wall is Mr. Andrew Coley. Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
Hi, Neil. Kevin. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. So I'm guessing you're at home with your lovely Rally Monte Carlo poster behind you.
Looks like he's doing some decorating as well. Is that a can of paint?
That is that's it, yeah. I have a new computer which has a wider angle. I've had to move the Hoover already.
Oh, well, we're watching you in widescreen, and Columbo over here. He did some painting. He's decorating. Just one more thing, Andrew. So we are on the verge, right, of Rally Argentina, which historically is one of my favourite rallies. It's one of the classic rallies, and this year it's become even more of an endurance rally. They've put in a couple of really long stages. Tell us what your perspective is going to be on this coming weekend.
Well, it's interesting, as you say, the FIA and John Todd seem keen on longer rallies, and this one is 501 kilometres, I think, of special stages. You mentioned there's a couple of long ones. There's a 66-kilometre stage and one that's in the high 50s as well. So yeah, it's going to bring different elements into the driving. So fitness of the drivers, being able to look after the cars and being able to look after the tyres. You've got to survive the whole event. And so far this year, not everybody's been great at surviving.
And what's great about this is that a lot of the field going to Argentina, they're all quick there. You know, Petter's quick there. And what's interesting for us is, of course, since we spoke about this last week, Danny Sordo has been testing the Ford Fiesta. Do you have any kind of insight into how that's been going, what you think Danny can achieve in Argentina?
Well, he's been there 5 times. I think his best result was a second. He's also had a third. So, you know, he's got previous, if you like, for Argentina. And I can see why Ford have signed him up. He's a safe pair of hands. I believe he's done a day or a couple of days of testing up at M Sport. And, you know, you would think the conditions wouldn't be the same. But I understand that the weather forecast for Argentina isn't very good. And they're talking about there possibly being some snow up on a couple of the high altitude stages, wow. And it seems wet over there as well. So it might be that the forests of Cumbria were a good preparation for him. And people do say that you can jump in the Fiesta and drive it quite quickly straight away. And he was outrageously fast in Portugal in the wet. So Sordo could be on for a bit of a surprise result, which would be great. Lovely to see him win his first WRC event on his first outing for Ford would be amazing.
And we mustn't forget, it's very shrewd of Malcolm Wilson as well, the boss of the Ford World Rally Team, because Danny Sordo spent 3, 4, maybe even 5 seasons being the wingman to Sebastian Loeb and helping Citroën to win consecutive manufacturers' titles just by constantly posting second place. Loeb was good enough to win, but always bringing the car in so they got maximum points. So it's very shrewd of Wilson to know that Sordo, someone who knows these stages and is quick but responsible. Very clever, because there was talk of the likes of Oyt Tanak and maybe Ostberg taking that second Fiesta, but in a way, isn't it better for the team to have a lot of Ford Fiestas in between them and the podium and the Citroëns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sensible decision. You know, the young drivers, it's a lot of pressure to go straight into a works team. And if they were going in and Latvala had a great run so far, you know, and had just broken his shoulder blade and they were able to go in and just do whatever job. But the problem is, you know, Ford have had a load of non-finishes. They need manufacturers' points. They need a safe pair of hands, and Sordo was an available safe pair of hands. It was quite good of the mini team to let him go. So tactically, I think it's a good idea to see him in the car. I'm really interested to see what approach he takes. You know, I'd kind of like to see him go balls out and really go for the win. But whether or not he'll be allowed to do that, I don't know. Solberg has got to be regarded now as the #1 at Ford, and again, his tactics will be interesting to see. No one really capitalised on Loeb going out in Portugal. You know, the 2 Fords went off the road. Hervenen was excluded. So, you know, there's lots and lots of variables. It's going to be an exciting event.
I think Solberg's he's a very, very, you know, I put money on Solberg to win because I've watched him. I've stood in those stages in Argentina, and he is amazing on those stages, whether it was in a Subaru or in a Citroën. Interestingly, the whole business about Jari-Matti Latvala and his shoulder, but we were talking last week slightly flippantly about the fact that, you know, MotoGP riders, they get sort of bolted together and then they get back on the bike the next day. He did say, didn't he? I don't know if you've seen this today. It's in Motorsport News, that Latvala he was told he could possibly race a rally in Argentina. Do you know any more about this?
It's really hard. I mean, I was part of the big discussion, if you remember, on the day the news broke, saying the same thing. MotoGP riders, you say they return to ride a bike, and anyone who doesn't realise how physical those things are to ride, is misinformed. They are massively physical to ride. Okay, in a rally car, you've got straps over your shoulders, so in theory, it's right on the injury, but. At first they were saying he couldn't possibly do it, and then they moved on to say, well, maybe he could have done it. And I believe that, personally, Malcolm Wilson says his championship isn't over. But if his championship isn't over, then I think he could have gone. There are only 13 World Rally cars there, and maybe he could have just cruised a little bit, not taken the sort of risk which would see him shunt. And try to gather some points. Some people have asked the question: has he already signed for VW? He's protecting himself from further injury. If he injures it again, it could take up to 3 months to heal. There's a lot going on in the background that I'm sure we don't quite know the truth about. And these injuries, it's always funny, the stories that come out. I remember Panizzi, apparently he fell off a ladder, didn't he? Changing a light bulb was where the injury had come from.
Sounds like something you get round to do the decorating.
I'll be careful. But yeah, you never. I suspect it probably was a skiing injury. I don't think anything underhand has happened. I don't think he's been out motocrossing or anything. You never know.
I did see a quote today, though, that Jari Matti did say that the surgeon said to him, you could actually go and race, but if the metal plate that we've put in your clavicle becomes dislodged during that race, then it'll have to heal naturally, which will take 3 months. So he chose to miss one race with a view to being better for Greece and the intervening rally. So and finally, just before we move on from rallying from you, Andrew, it's the British Rally Championship again this weekend. Is there anything to report from that? It seems to be growing again in interest. There seems to be entries, a lot of Finns racing in these two-wheel drive cars. It's sort of shaking off this idea that they should have hung on to the big Mitsubishis and the Subarus from last year or the years before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that they've gone the two-wheel drive route. They had to do something with the current economic climate. The two-wheel drive cars, in theory, are cheaper to run. They are still very expensive. A Citroen DS3R3, which is currently the top car, if you like, in the BRC, they're about £100,000. But in terms of running costs, obviously, they should be less than the Group N cars. There's about 7 of the Citroens running. There's people doing well in Fords. I think it's a good format. In terms of the form book, it's anybody's guess that people have gone quickly, had massive shunts, retired. So it's going to be a little while before we see that. Tom Cave, I did read again in Motorsport News this week, thinks this might be his last round of the BRC, which would be a shame because, of course, he won the last round in Wales. And looking at his onboard, he was very quick. So, they're off up to the Pirelli. Very tricky roads up there. So it'll be an exciting third round of the British Rally Championship. And
probably quite wet, I would imagine.
If it's anything like it is down here on the south coast, they'd be better off in canoes than rally cars.
And will we be able to follow? Are you working on the WRC this weekend? Are you doing?
No, I'm not on it this weekend, Neil, unfortunately. Damn. So, I won't be, but I'll be following the event very closely indeed.
We'll be doing it the same. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your words of wisdom. We'll speak to you again in a few weeks. Thanks, Andrew Coley, talking all things rallying. Still to come, we will be talking tin tops and NASCAR, but it is time for me and Kevin to take another break. Welcome back to The Grid on Sports Tonight Live. We were just talking to Andrew Coley about the forthcoming WRC Argentina. It's an incredible event. I've been there six times, and you just 1 million people go to watch that. They line the stages. You can walk for like 2 kilometres to your position when you're filming, and every single metre of that has got crowds drinking Fernando, which is Fernet Branca and Coke. They're completely mental, dawn till dusk. It's amazing. And when you get up to El Condor, where you do see condors, hence the name, and there's snow up there, you go, this is insane. It's like the moon. It's an amazing event. If you can catch it over the weekend, I think it's on Motors. Then do watch it. Now let's move. We've gone Formula One to rallying. Now let's go to tin tops, and the man who knows everything about the world of touring cars is Neil Hudson on our Skype call. Hello, Neil. Nice to see you again. How are you?
Good, thanks, you.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Last time I saw you was it Valencia when we were both working on the WTCC?
Yeah, last time we were there. Saw your little video.
Good. And so tell us, what's the sort of the latest? We've got a big, busy weekend of touring cars ahead of us. How are you possibly going to divide yourself across WTCC, BTCC, and the DTM?
Thankfully, it's not just me at the side, so we've got a little bit of help. I'll be doing the World Touring Cars in Slovakia, and we'll have someone at the other brands as well. So yeah, we've been a busy weekend. We'll keep an eye on what's going on. Yeah, DTM, British, World, the big three really. So.
And bring us up to speed if you can with the WTCC first of all. Muller still sort of leading from the front, or is it a little bit more competitive?
Well, after they're dominating at Marrakesh, they took 1, 2, 3 to the Chevrolet team, that is, in both races. And this weekend it'll be BMWs are actually heavier, ironically, because they've been so close to the Chevrolets on one lap pace. So actually, it does look like you would expect to see Chevrolet still right at the front. Just from what order is usually the question. The only issue will be Seat will be a bit lighter, and Tarquini, obviously, main issues at the last race was complete reliability failures for the team, and they'll be. If they get that car running to finish the race, it's still there with the Chevrolets, but that's the only hope at the moment. It's Tarquini. Tom Coronel's very quick. He's better than normal this year, but unfortunately, it's just a matter of that BMW hasn't got as much development behind it as the Seat and the Chevrolet.
And what's the Slovakia circuit like? Is it who will it suit? Anyone in particular?
No one knows. That's the whole sort of fun. The only ones who know about it are the Hungarian team, who have the two drivers have driven there before in junior Formula. No one else knows. It's been used for GT3 last year, so whoever can learn a circuit fastest will suit best.
So you're expecting Mikulic to do quite well then?
There's a hope there. I'm sure they'll be hopeful, and then obviously his home race the weekend after. So yeah.
And what's interesting as well, there's a couple of sort of news stories, is of course Ford, they're increasing almost ahead of expectation this year, and news as well that Lada are coming back to World Touring Cars.
Yeah, Lada are due to appear at Hungary, although it's been a bit quiet. There'll at least be a support Lada championship there, so hopefully we'll see the Lada soon. James Thompson, of course, two-time British Touring Car champion, will be there, driving for them. And Ford, they've been strong. They picked up their first points for Ford at Marrakesh in the World Touring Car current phase of World Touring Cars. And this weekend they'll be 30 kilograms lighter because they've changed their suspension. So actually they'll be even quicker than they were at Marrakesh.
And do you think that is ahead of expectations, or secretly do you think they would have hoped to be at this stage this early?
I think the drivers have been hoping that they'll be where they are.
Of course, but they're drivers. They want to be winning races even if the car doesn't have the power.
Yeah, I think the team have been very much I think Mike L saying his objective was to finish in the top 10. They've already done that, so they could just pack up and finish for the year, couldn't they? But I think that's really setting the low mark, and now they're actually hoping, now they're aiming for that podium.
And we had a question on our Facebook wall from Paul Thompson talking about, we're switching to British touring cars now, about Plato and the push to pass, which I think he refers to as in the button, not just pushing someone out of the way. What's the current situation politically within the BTCC and looking forward to this weekend? Is it going to be a right ruckus?
Usually is. Trucks is one of the craziest circuits on the calendar. It's pretty much a wonky oval. It's a high-speed circuit. It'll suit fast cars, and the MG is definitely fast. The Honda, obviously, the team are quite upset about their low boost setting in terms of pace. They're there, but it doesn't mean they probably would be faster and wouldn't have to push the car so hard. I think Jason's push to pass, as Gordon Shedden put it, the last race was to push out of the way on the last corner. The boost settings have changed ahead of this weekend. We have the understanding there's never any official confirmation on what changes, but MG and Honda, we understand, are the same, and the other teams have had a little bit of a kick up, so they should be a bit closer to Honda and MG this weekend.
Superb. And finally, DTM kicks off this weekend. And it's got Andy Priaulx in there, Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard. You'll be pleased to see Kevin.
I've got a question about Coulthard. I mean, what's his form like in the DTM? I mean, he was a rubbish Formula One driver that crashed on the first laps most of the time. Has this changed? That's a no then.
Coulthard's, he finds the time to do DTM doing his other job, and so far he's not been a front runner, but he's had those occasional fights there. But DTM's an odd one. Top drivers go to it and don't do very well at it. Alan Nish, top sports car driver, he had a terrible year in the DTM when he tried it. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Mick Hakkinen, occasional winners, but no ex-Formula One drivers ever excelled in DTM. Expecting more from BMW, which is a new change this year. All three big German manufacturers, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, the old World Touring Car teams. It should be a good change for DTM. Hopefully, the main thing is the drag is overtaking.
And it was a bit of a shock to me to see some of the new blood. One of the rookies is Robert Wickens, the Canadian sort of F1 hopeful, is racing in the DTM. That was a shock. What's the story with him?
He was a switch. I think Renger van der Zande, the Dutch driver, was sort of running Mercedes last year, and he was outed by the team, and he's been replaced by Robert Wickens. Yeah, so I think Robert's decided to go the sometimes DTM can get you into Formula One route, and it works for Paul di Resta. Some others it hasn't. Gary Paffett's been 10 years as a McLaren test driver, also really. So it's it could get into Formula One. It still keeps him on track, but gets him into Mercedes camp, and Mercedes is very powerful in Formula One.
Okay, so it's more of a political sidestep rather than a step down. Interesting. Okay, thank you very much, Neil. We've got to move on, but enjoy the weekend, and we'll be reading your reports all weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Neil. That's Neil Hudson, representing all touring cars. Incredible. I don't know how he does it. It's a lot to juggle. They're very heavy as well, if you're actually going to juggle them. And we're going to move right along to another kind of tin top. We're talking NASCAR now, and we are joined by Henry Baudet on the Skype wall. Hello, Henry. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks, guys. How's it going?
Yeah, very good. Very blank wall behind you. Have you removed pictures, or are you just trying to...
It's not a very blank wall. If you have a look over my one shoulder, we have got Thomas Maldon Price in there. But other than that, you're trying to stay neutral, but can't quite hide my allegiances to the late great Tom Price. I'll work on it for next week. I'll get some stars and stripes and some cheerleaders behind me. We'll go real Americana next week.
Or just a big bottle of milk or something. So the NASCAR season just kind of keeps, it's thick and fast. These races are coming. Tell us about what happened at the weekend.
Yeah, well, we're into the 8th race. The 8th race was the STP 400 at the Kansas Speedway on Sunday. Another one of the kind of the new generation of 1.5 mile, they call them in America cookie cutter style racetracks. They say they're bland, but in the late 90s and early noughties, a whole raft of these circuits, kind of the same 1.5 miles, 2 miles, D-shaped ovals, all kind of cropped up. The Kansas Speedway has actually been quite a successful one. It's being resurfaced now at the end of this race, but Sunday's race, it wasn't filled with incident and accidents. There was only 3 caution flags, but it was a very exciting race indeed. Martin Truex Jr., who has really come on strong this year in the Michael Waltrip Racing Toyota. He led nearly 200 laps of what was a 267-lap race, but just at the end, after the last round of green flag pit stops, on what had been a very cloudy afternoon, the sun came out. It was a very foreign concept to us over on these shores this week, but the sun came out, and Truex Jr.'s car just didn't react well to the sudden burst of sunshine.
Are you saying it's a vampire car? Is that was it?
Well, yeah. It keeps away from garlic. But Denny Hamlin's car lit up in the sunshine, so not a vampire car at all. And Hamlin overtook Truex Jr. with 30 laps to go. Then the sun miraculously disappeared again, and Truex Jr.'s car came right back into it at the end. And with 2 laps to go, I think the technical term is Truex Jr. went for a banzai lunge going into turn 3. It didn't quite work, but it was a very exciting finish. Hamlin won. It was his 2nd win of the year. He won by just 0.7 of a second, and after 400 miles of racing without the aid of a lot of caution flags, and to slow the field down artificially, it was a very exciting race. But Hamlin from Truex Jr., the points leader Greg Biffle, he came home in 5th place. Defending champion Tony Stewart didn't have a great day, only 13th. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., the fans' favourite, finished in 7th. Jimmy Johnson looking for his 6th title, 3rd. Hendrick Motorsports, his team, still searching for that 200th Sprint Cup Series victory.
So it is quite exciting in a way that a lot of the giants aren't running away with it this year. It's the big sort of household names that even we know as not sort of NASCAR purists.
Yes, certainly. I mean, Martin Truex Jr. is running 2nd in points at the moment. Last year, Tony Stewart won the championship on a tiebreaker with Carl Edwards. Now, Stewart's won a couple of races this year. Carl Edwards hasn't, and there's a real hangover this year for Carl Edwards. On Sunday, he led 1 lap. And that was the first lap he'd led all year. It was during a round of green flag pit stops, so he wasn't even up at the front. He finished 9th in the end. But yeah, there's some new names. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is up in 4th in the points. Jeff Gordon, one of the most popular drivers over these short. He's been struggling all year. He's been very fast, but I think he must have run over a black cat or something before the start of the season. If it wasn't for bad luck, he would have no luck whatsoever this season. But it's really mixing things up. Yeah, Biff, all the points leader, never been a champion before. Truex Jr. second in points, hasn't won a race for a while, isn't one of NASCAR's most celebrated drivers. Earnhardt Jr. Isn't a champion yet. He's fourth in the points, and the Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart, they've been fast, but they're not having it all their own way this year.
And I know someone that you like to keep an eye on.
Yeah, how's Danica doing? How's she doing?
Well, Danica, she's having an okay time in the Nationwide Series. She raced in the Sprint Cup. She's doing a partial Sprint Cup Series schedule. I think she's doing 10 races this year. She did the Daytona 500. It was quite quick, but got involved in a couple of accidents. She's doing the full Nationwide Series, the championship to the Sprint Cup Series Premier League. She's doing the full season there. She's doing all right. She's struggling a little bit. You find that she's very quick in qualifying. Getting used to adjusting these 3.5-ton stock cars as a race progresses is still a bit of a challenge for Danica. Not in terms of physical strength or anything like that. She's got no problems there whatsoever. But just getting in tune with how, like I said, Truex Jr. lost this race on Sunday because the sun came out. And you've got to be so sensitive. People mock NASCAR for being, the good old boys and,
Me?
But it's one of the most scientific forms of racing there is because of the speeds involved and because of it's an oval series. You've got to really get into kind of aerodynamics and how the air runs off the car in front of you and minute little adjustments. That's something that Danica's still working towards. She's there or thereabouts. She's a top 15, top 20 contender in the Nationwide Series week in, week out. Her next Sprint Cup outing is at Darlington, not Darlington in the UK, by the way, Darlington, South Carolina, the track that is too tough to tame. And she's going to have a very big wake-up call when she goes to Darlington, where you do run 367 laps at Darlington, an inch away from the outside wall. So, it'll be interesting. That's in a couple of weeks.
I've been to Darlington in the UK. Had a big wake-up call there too myself.
And you must feel, just finally, that it's partially due to his very brief foray into NASCAR that Kimi Raikkonen is suddenly able to be second on the podium in a Grand Prix.
Yeah, those couple of truck races he did, that's made Mr. Raikkonen. He hasn't quite come out with the NASCAR-style mullets, and I'm not sure he's listening to any country and western music yet. But it's all down to a couple of NASCAR races last year that Raikkonen is back on the podium. Yeah,
you heard it here first. Listen, thank you very much, Henry. We'll speak to you again probably in a couple of weeks when our next show is. Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Cheers. We've got just one more part left of this episode of The Grid. It's flown by, but we still have one part. So come back after this break for it. Welcome back to the final part of The Grid on Sports Tonight Live on this Wednesday, the 25th of April. So just to wrap up then, Kevin, what have we learnt this week on The Grid?
What have we learnt?
Looking backwards at the Grand Prix and a couple of weeks hence to the Spanish round in Catalonia, what's your gut instinct?
My gut instinct is that I still don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
Should we be in Spain? That's what I want to know.
I think we should. Do you know what I think? It's the same as we were talking about earlier. Consistency is going to win this season. It's the very exciting race of the tortoise. That's the way it's going to work over this year. Things aren't going to change. I think we should be in Spain. But somebody who's not going to be in Spain is Perez's dad.
Tell us why.
Because apparently he's been banned from the garage because he's a nervous wreck.
Oh, bless him. Since Monaco last year.
Yeah, really since Monaco last
really?
year. So he's been a nervous wreck. They did try taking some lessons in cool from Hamilton's dad. That didn't work. So they went to John Button's dad. No amount of alcohol or cigarettes solved the problem. So they've said, look, from now on, can you watch at home?
Oh, so he won't have his little sort of team behind him, making him even more nervous.
Yeah, no, not at all. He'll just be sat on the sofa.
So Perez for the win.
Perez, definitely.
And you very kindly have offered up these souvenirs that you got from your stalking trip.
Yeah. I found something much better, and I'm going to keep that instead. But yeah, I think we should give those away as a prize.
So what we were thinking, of course, we all know that Kimi Raikkonen's nickname is the Iceman. Yeah. And you found out that
Kovalainen's nickname is the Nice Man.
Isn't that sweet? Not particularly scary for a Formula One driver. So there's the Nice Man, the Iceman, and I was watching the Chinese Grand Prix in Spain so it's Spanish commentary. And when they were talking about Michael Schumacher, they never said Schumacher, they called him the Kaiser.
Yeah.
So he's got a classic old school nickname, but not many of the others do.
Nope.
So what
As
we
far
can
as I know.
do, if you want to win one of these signed cards, there's Grosjean, there's Raikkonen, Jerome, and Petrov. If you want to win one of these, then what we want you to do is suggest. By the way, they'll be signed by us, not by the drivers. We'll sign them. But if you want to win one of these, and we'll send them to you as a prize, then we want your suggestions for the best nicknames for the current F1 grid. So you can get involved on Twitter at STL_the grid, or of course we do have a Facebook page which is feeling a little bit underloved at the moment, so please like us, and also then make your suggestions, and we will send the best, funniest, most accurate these signed things, signed by us though.
Yeah, why not?
So what's in store for you between, because obviously we won't be on air until after the Spanish Grand Prix, so who do you think is going to win in Spain? Come on the spot.
Alonso.
Well, home
Perez. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm dreading the Formula One predictor. There's someone going to get that wrong again. I've no idea who's going to win.
That was an interesting fact from Tancredi earlier, that there's only been one season that's had 4 different winners.
Yeah, 29 years. It was Whitmarsh that said it, apparently. And 8 different drivers on the podium since. And the last time in 2000, that's more so far than in the entire 2011 season.
Yes, that's right.
Crazy, isn't it?
And the number of laps that Vettel had won, the Red Bull had led at this point was like 150.
It's ridiculous.
This time last year, and now superb. And what's your other gut instincts? What about Grosjean? A very good performance from him. Obviously, the Lotus has proved itself to be quick.
I've no idea. I'm starting to wonder if it's a battle of the engine suppliers. The last 2 races, like this race, all about Renault. The race before, all about Mercedes. All this talk about tyres, I wonder if that's maybe somewhere in the mix. But they're going to
Ferrari,
Spain.
Even the Toro Rossos.
Yeah, but they're going to Spain, so they did test here quite a lot. So they might even have the measure of the tyres in Spain.
True.
So it might be boring.
It might be boring, but it's a great circuit, Catalonia. It's
Yeah,
great. It's great fun on the Formula One Grand Prix game as well. So now it's time to do something as we come towards the end of the show, which is to do my little motorsport forecast. Come with me on a journey through sight and sound. Here we are. Hello, this is me again. I was just over there, now I'm here. This is a map of the world, and here's a little forecast as to what will be coming up over the next weekend and coming weeks of motorsports. Now, we start off over here with NASCAR in Richmond, Virginia. That's coming up this weekend. Then down in South America, the amazing WRC Argentina, a superb event. Should be very, very exciting. Watch out for Danny Sordo, or Fordo, as I have nicknamed him. We've got MotoGP in Jerez, or Jerez, however you want to say it. We've got WTCC in Slovakia. We've got BTCC in Thruxton. We've got also DTM in Hockenheim, and we move to the following weekend, where we have British Superbikes in Alton Park. That's that one there. And then, of course, we'll bring us bang up to date somewhere in Spain, about here in Catalonia, for the Spanish Grand Prix, which is on the 11th to the 13th of May. And then after that, we'll be back here on the grid on Sports Night Live. Come over here, Kevin, to say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Please do get involved. If you've got opinions, we want to hear it.
That's what I've
if you
got.
want to be on our Skype wall.
I want to keep this.
Is that the thing that you...
Yeah,
thought
I don't
was
want
better
those
than the-
rubbish postcards. I've got a life-size Jensen button.
That should say Lucasade, because you're a bit poorly.
Oh.
So yes, please do get in touch at
Hold his
STL The
hand.
Grid on Twitter. Join us on Facebook. Just get involved. And if you want to be on our Skype wall to talk about anything, you're very, very welcome. But from all of us,
Always.
thank you very much for watching. We have been The Grid on Sports Tonight Live. And how did you feel about the race, Jensen?
Bit boring.
Pit stop.